So how do I pronounce your name?
It's Arya. Like, if you ever seen Game of Thrones, it's said exactly the same way.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So pumped to have you on. We talk about a lot on this show, and today's been a great day. I mean, we've been rocking on the podcast talking about trustworthy AI and ethical AI and how they are not the same thing. Augmented and AI is also not the same thing. So lots to dig in. So why don't we dig in with the theme of the day, a little bit of an audible.
Okay.
Let's begin with you. And what are your thoughts on welcome to the show? And if you had to talk about ethics AI or trustworthy AI, or what do you want to talk about? What a good day it's been.
Well, I'm glad you're having a good day. And I guess I'm having a good day too so far. Why don't we go with, I've been to a lot of conferences and talks, and, I haven't heard the term trustworthy AI, so I'm interested to learn something new. But I have, everyone's always interested in the ethics of artificial intelligence, specifically on like how it's applied in the realm of data privacy. So why don't we go with that? Let's start somewhere comfortable.
Okay, let's do it, baby. You kick us off. How would you define then the ethical AI?
I think in my mind, an ethical AI has a few sort of attributes to it. So one is that the data set that's behind it, that's powering it, whatever it's going to be. I mean, it has to be a very non-biased and representative of whatever it's trying to, whatever population it's being applied to. There's been lots of research and studies and sort of known nomenclature on the fact that a lot of data sets behind AI is biased towards certain races or certain groups. Like the data set that powers them is biased towards certain races or certain groups. For example, when AI is applied to a lot of criminal data, it will instinctively focus in on certain people of color or certain ethnic groups because just in the way that data has always been collected, those groups have either been systematically targeted to be more likely to cause crime. Not necessarily true, but there's been years and years of bias behind that. And so you feed that into AI, it's just going to spit out what it picks up, right? So that's one. Hopefully a non-biased representative population. Two, I think it has to be transparent. I think it's important for people to know how AI is being used in their lives. And everyone's always sort of drawn to these sort of Hollywood things of AI is going to take over the human race by destroying us because of Skynet or something. Not to say that could not happen in the far future. People like Elon Musk and Bill Gates have said various things on the topics. But I think what's more dangerous is the subtle ways AI kind of creeps into our lives slowly and through things that we might, think are very benign. Like back in the day when, Facebook started opening up, you were more than happy to just give data to share stuff with friends. And now you're learning a lot about how that AI could potentially be used in things that may not align to our interests, our personal interests. And so I think it is important to have transparency. I think those two are key pillars. I've talked a lot already, so I'll just stop here. Feel free to follow up on that if you'd like.
Well, I think you bring up all the right points, right? So you have got ethical, and as you bring it back to the trust, I think you can have something that's trustworthy but not ethical, or ethical but not trustworthy. I think transparency is a big part of that. And I think you nailed it with your example of you gave in the early days, because it was single sign-on and it was easy to connect all your accounts with Facebook. You just started sharing all this data with all these apps and you just didn't realize it. And it was ethical. We had consent to a sense that we knew what we were doing. Then there was a little bit of a breach of trust. I don't know the bridge, so I think everyone's a lot smarter. But without all of this data, I don't know if you can get to the next level. So then if I link this to China, right? Mm-hmm. China, there is no privacy, right? So there is no consent. And because of that, they're going to be moving at a different pace than the rest of, at least of the United States, which is, I think, why some of the tech companies are worried about China. They're putting cameras up everywhere. And I'm not saying this is good or bad, but they're collecting massive amount of data. And we're going to be behind. I just don't know when. And I also don't know the impact, but we are going to be behind.
You're saying we're at a disadvantage in some ways because we're at least trying to maintain a degree of ethics potentially, whereas other actors like China, potentially other folks are not, right? That's what you're saying?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, I can definitely see where you're coming from, right? Obviously, if you have one side that's playing by a certain set of rules that constrains a certain amount of behavior, towards the name of progress, and you have another side that isn't, I think that from a tortoise and hare perspective, one does have a speed advantage.
I'm going to throw another one at you. And again, I'm just riffing with you here. Let's take it away from China. Let's just move to COVID. There is a technology that Apple could have done contact tracing just by knowing where your cell phone was, who had COVID at the Whole Foods or the drugstore at Home Depot, and it could have just texted everybody. You were at Home Depot at 2 o'clock on a Sunday.
Yep.
Right. So is that ethical? Is it trustworthy? I mean, they have all the information, and I'm not trying to pick a fight. I'm just using it as we have the tech. But where does it fall? I would love to be able to get a text on my phone that said, hey, you were in Home Depot, at just the wrong time, right? Well, no, you should get tested. I might say, how did you know I was there? You violated my trust? I don't know. Or I'm like, oh my God, thank you. You might have my wife. I don't know. Where do you sit on this?
Well, so now in this particular example, it's okay. Personally, if it was me, I would be okay with that arrangement, right? Like both as someone, if I got COVID, I would be fairly fine if Apple said share my data on certain, maybe not exactly where I was or where I've been, because that's a whole breach of that could open up a whole can of worms. But essentially, like just contact people that have been near me at certain times.
If I'm Apple and I disclose that you were at the Home Depot, you told that you might, that's a little bit too close to home that it's a Home Depot. But if I told you you were in this tomb area, would you be then okay? I don't know, right? These are the crazy questions.
Yeah.
Where is your comfort zone? Even though I know you were at Home Depot, I know and you know you were at Home Depot, but would you feel more comfortable? It's like, you were in this 4-block range.
Yeah, I mean, again, personally for me, I'd be okay with it, but I think it's going to come down to what's fair and aggregate and considering what other individuals, right? Like me, I'm okay with it, fine, I don't care. So then that sort of opens up, okay, well, what do you do for people who would have an issue with that? Maybe you would offer them a thing like, hey, do you agree for your data to be sent? And also, do you want to consume information about others? And then you can say, yes or no to that sort of stuff. In this example, I can see the benefit, but again, I think it does come down to people who could be impacted by this from a data privacy perspective. They should have the option to opt in and out of either. I don't think it would be right to Apple to just start sharing this information unless I don't know. We've done things in cases of national emergency, I would imagine. I don't know. That's a really tricky one. Yeah.
I don't know. I agree. But we can agree as data enthusiasts and people that play with data, we know that this exists right now. Meaning if we put the Tiger team on it and we gave them a sprint, this could have been fixed. Well, where they could be deployed is a whole nother.
Right.
So I don't know, right? So the other thing I think about with data collection is I was traveling international. Now, when you come into the country, like you have to scan your fingerprints. They take a photo of you. It's all in the machine. Again, I'm okay with that. I don't know what they're doing with it, but I feel comfortable that everyone that's coming in is getting a fingerprint. But the government is not saying, hey, thank you for coming into America. We're going to take your photo. And then this photo is going to go into 25 databases.
Right. I get it. I think in things like that.
Let me tell you what you can do with it.
Yeah. So in your example there, in my mind, it's kind of weird. I think in your sense, it's kind of weird that, all of a sudden this technology kind of showed up and then we're just sort of saying, oh yeah, take my photo and swipe and thumbprint. Okay, cool. And go about your day. I think, it's almost as if, we're sort of introducing technology first and then waiting till people wake up for it. So where it should be the reverse. Tell people about the technology, allow them to decide if it's good or bad for them, and then implement it as long as they give their okay. But again, that goes to
exactly. Or just be China. Say, I don't worry about what we're doing with it.
But
just take your picture.
Yeah, but see, I don't agree with the be China thing, and I think it also comes down to what sort of society do we want to live in. I mean, maybe you could argue to some degree that, hey, just trust the government, and they're going to give you, hey, it's okay if you take your photo. We're just doing it to improve the common good or improve society. Fine, but a lot of people I think will be uncomfortable with that, and there's lots of evidence throughout history of our government, other governments using technology that may not be in our best public interest. So I think if AI is going to take off in China, okay, great. But I would argue that I would rather be a nation that at least is striving to use technology ethically to improve the well-being of its citizens as a whole, rather than just forcing upon you, and you don't even have any power to change how that government's going to use it for you. Not to get into geopolitics or anything, but
no. But I'm not trying to pick a political fight. I'm just I'm agreeing with you. It's just when I look at the two extremes, right? You know where China sits, and then you probably even have like Germany on some of that extreme of what you can and can't do. So I think everybody is just trying to figure out their rules. But what's going to happen is there will be people that are going to be moving. There will be a consequence. We don't know. Like maybe Germany got it right. I don't know, right? Maybe China got it right. Like there are two extremes on two different sides. One is really hard to do data stuff in certain German, with GDPR regulations.
Yeah, but again, GDPR, those are another excellent point. It's like a lot of progress you could argue is quote unquote slowed because of GDPR. I know I've worked in companies that had to put a lot of effort into being GDPR compliant. They were worried about lawsuits that would come out of GDPR compliance. But I would argue Europeans, at least from my perspective, got something right when they initiated something that is going to, I think on a whole, be better for the self-interest of their own citizens in terms of GDPR. Like in Europe, they took the stand, at least at the way I read it, I'm not a geopolitical expert or anything, but I look at it as they took a step of you, the individual, own the data, and you are the creator. Since you're the creator of the data, you're the owner, and you decide how it's used. Whereas in America, at least for now, we seem to be of the opposite where, hey, corporation, organization, company, you created the data set, your database, even though it's derived from the activity of individuals, you own the data, you decide how to use it. And I'm more inclined to kind of go with the Europe side. Or at least I would say it would be good for our own society to be more aware of how AI is being used and how the data is being used. And if we should decide to go to the Europe side, fine, go for it. Yeah.
Totally. And we won't know. I mean, we have some fields, we have some hypotheses, we have early data, but we won't know. And the reason why I want to bring this back is to the next generation. I just read that they're calling the next generation the E as in Evan, the E generation. This is the whole group that just brought up, everything is electronic. And we're advocating for so many things as adults. And this generation is just sync me now. There is going to be another disconnect. If you look at the Reddit, you look at the Bitcoin, and you look at digital currencies, I just think there's something happening, right? Like this whole Reddit, launching up stock. I just think there's a disconnect right now on the adults who are advocating. And I think that's a good thing. And the new generation, it's like an agile generation. And I don't know if you have any opinions on that, but I'm starting to see a divide.
Clarify your position just so I understand. So you're saying between the older generation.
I'm saying that my position is there is a divide. Okay. There is something happening in the water, and I don't know what the output is, but there is something happening. You can't be in a situation where Reddit users are running up stocks, right? There's now a digital internet currency. There's just so much going on, and now you have regulation. The ground is changing. And the more I think Big Corp might want to control certain data, I think there's going to be a data revolution.
Okay, there's two parts. And I don't want to say I'm not trying to put a blame game, right? But
yeah, exactly.
Some of it is going to be on people, individuals like you and me, being more aware of how our data is being used. I understand Some of that isn't fully available to us to know, but I think it's hey, they should at least be asking questions. And I think we live in a democratic society where, hey, if we ultimately decide that we don't want data to be used in a certain way, I think it's okay that we take that to our leaders, they legislate, and then we pass laws that govern the behavior. I don't see I myself, I work for Visa. I'm a director of Visa. I do data science at Visa. And yes, I do use a lot of data to, about my day-to-day life or to, do what I need to do to meet Visa's goals. Now, that being said, it's we obviously use that data in a lawful way and an ethical way. At least I strive to. But now when it comes to a lot of things that maybe kind of going back to your trust versus ethics, it also comes down to what is legal is not necessarily ethical type thing. Hey, let people be aware, give full transparency, have them be as transparent as possible. And if they want to legislate laws that govern how data is being used, I think at least we live in a society that can make that happen.
Well said. Well said. I mean, absolutely well said. I'm seeing it the same way you see it. That's what I love about the podcast and is these conversations. We can also spend this time talking about how accuracy models are, but I think talking about just our our beliefs in this environment, in this economy, in this free world. To me, these are great conversations.
Yeah, they are, and I think they're going to be a lot more. They're going to pick up steam a lot more, I guess, as AI gets more and more intertwined with our lives, and we as a society are learning. Well, wait, that was actually an AI algorithm that decided. I don't know what credit score I got, but I mean, we are going to ask for that transparency, and I think it's good that we get it. So yeah.
And it's interesting because. As you say about that, and that you're right, everyone's getting smarter and smarter. And there's probably one out of every 4 apps I want to put on my phone. I always deny because for some reason the app wants access to my photo reel. And there's really no reason for that app to have access to my photo reel or my calendar. So I like that at least Google and everyone has done better job on, like you said, what exactly am I connecting into? What exactly rights are you getting? There was an app that you can install for your Calendar that also can connect on Google, but has the right to delete your calendar entries. I'm like, excuse me? Like where these companies are pushing what they want to connect, it's just upsetting. Like anything, I wish there was a rule like that. If you don't need access to my calendar, why are you putting it in my off or my photo reel? Why are you even asking for it?
Yeah, I know. I think GDPR did try to introduce some of those things, like any like if you do ask for data or attempt to get access to data, it has to be for like a fundamental, like main purpose of why you need it. So yeah, like it can't be ancillary in your case. Like why would that app need a photo reel? I mean, I don't see any issue with that.
They're still going to ask. Yeah.
They're still going to ask. Now, and that's another thing. It's I guess, that comes to the consent part, which if any organization asks you for data, they say, hey, are you okay with it? Yeah, if you give consent, then now there's a legal thing there that you've given it and it's okay.
Good luck. Yeah. Right.
Well, but then again, it's then up to individuals to also educate themselves about how data is being used. I know another thing in the way things used to be, I've noticed that in a lot of cases, when you opt into any marketing data sharing agreement, it's always like when you sign up for a new program, right? Like I've seen back in the day, it just seemed like that checkbox was always checked, and now it's more of an opt-in. So I think things are sort of getting better, but it's always something I think we're going to have to deal with.
No, and listen, and this is a fun conversation. So this is why we like the data standard, and why we started it was to just bring together data enthusiasts during a pandemic who don't have the luxury of travel. We do the podcast so we can meet, and then from here, we have a community now about 13,000 people. And there are going to be a few people I'd love to connect you with, right? Because we're trying to keep this thread of community. This way, you can meet other thought leaders and thinkers in the space. Forced serendipity, I guess. So, but what else are we doing, right? So, I mean, that's why we put this together, and it just gives me the highlight of my day is just speaking to a couple new people that these meaningful conversations where you're just not going out. So to me, maybe I needed this more than you, and it was nice to get into a conversation. So I appreciate it. I just miss this stuff. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course. And I'm happy to learn more about what you folks do and be part of the broader community. I mean, if we, whether it's ethics or fun machine learning stuff, accuracy of models, or even other topics, I'm happy to contribute. So just thanks for having me on.
Oh my God, heck yeah. And we will be planning a party probably in 2022. So we will get together one day. So this was enjoyable. And I'm just going to tell you, we're sponsored by Pandio. Pandio is we're the number one distributed meshing tool. So we appreciate Pandio, and I appreciate you for being on the podcast and letting us go, at least let's call it round one. Like we'll do 9 rounds, you and I. This was so much fun. I think we picked some good topics that are relevant that people want to hear. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, same here. I appreciate your time as well, and hope to be on again. Thank you.